2025. What a year. You can take that in a positive context, you can take that in a negative context. It was just, what a year. And, it's over. It certainly is over, and now it's 2026. But before we get started in this new year of whatever chaos I have cooking, and best believe you, I do have cooking of the chaos occurring in my kitchen, and also every other room of my house. Let's look back at 2025. Let's go over my reading wrap-up of 2025. I'll go ahead and warn you ahead of time, this is not going to be a very stats-heavy video. This is just going to be me hitting you with some stats, some fun facts, but really I just want to talk about my last year in reading. I think the biggest thing, the biggest elephant in the room, is that I started this channel. If you don't know me from Adam, if this was your first time to this channel, your first time ever seeing me, first of all, sorry. Second of all, you've been cursed now. And third of all, I do have a main channel called Press Play Chey where I do a bunch of other random stuff. But I love reading, I love making book videos, and while I am very much a proponent of make whatever the heck you want on your own channel, and against the niche type thing, I just wanted a more dedicated spot where I could, like, make chill book videos. I can make vlogs more often, more consistently, just, you know, no real pressure to do it. It's just casual reading. I can make it fun. And I'm still making thematic book videos on my main channel, and I'm gonna make more in-depth, more than vlogs on this channel, but I started this as like a freeing of my brain to be like, I can just read and make videos about reading whatever I want. So that's fun, and I'm proud of me for doing that, because that was something that I harped on myself for a while about. Do these videos belong in this channel? Do this, do that, do it not? And I just finally decided to make a new channel. So here we are. To begin, let's go over some quick stats. According to Goodreads, I read 274 books last year, which is adequate. Now, this is where things get a little bit dicey, because I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I tried to calculate all the pages? I think Goodreads said I read somewhere around 67,000, but I also keep a reading journal where I write down the various page numbers and, you know, all those stats. And I have my laptop over here that I'm looking at the calculations, and according to my own calculations, by my log, it says I read 64,764 physical pages. Now, this is some give or take. These are both big numbers. They're not that far off, and I'll tell you why I think there's a discrepancy, why I know there's a discrepancy. I am very bad about picking my correct edition on Goodreads. You know how you can pick, like, a hardcover, a soft cover, digital audio, whatever on Goodreads? Yeah, I tend to just not care. Which is not good when you're actually trying to track stats. But I tend to either add the edition later, or I just forget to do it entirely, or I think that there are, I mean, obviously there's not an exact science, some of their editions are just not right in terms of their page counts, at least depending on different various editions, but also, I think that there were some, because I've never really been an audiobook listener until this year, and we'll get into that in a second, but so at the start of this year, I didn't count audiobooks necessarily as, like, audio. I would go and look up Goodreads, like the average page count on like a physical edition, and I would write that as the page count if I listened to an audiobook. So that's a little inflated, possibly, for physical page count, but I know it's over 60K. I know it's over 60K. I feel very comfortable saying it's even over 62K for sure. But there's where some of the discrepancy probably lies. In terms of audio, from my calculations, which I said there's some discrepancy, but from what I could add up, I listened to 117.8 hours of audio. You might be like, Chey, that's low numbers. That's rookie numbers. Guess what? That's pro numbers for Chey, because I was not an audiobook girl until this year. And you know what? I fully blame Nerdy Nat Reads for that. She knows what she did. So in terms of some trends and some changes this past year, I really branched out in my reading, and I'm so proud of that. Now, when we go into my actual reading journal, so there are a couple things I track. I track the name of the book, the author, the genre, my rating, page counts. But I also have a color coding system. So see this light blue means that I own it. It's on my physical TBR. This brown means that it was a library loan or an ebook from my library of some sort. And the red means a DNF. And it's so funny because these two pages hold most of my DNFs this year. That's a good thing. I mainly only had, I think, 3 DNFs this year. I think that was it, which is pretty awesome considering how much I read. Means I'm pretty good about predicting my own taste. And lastly, when you see these orange marks, that means that it is about is a BIPOC author. I really try to be cognizant, and this is such a bad representation because this is such a low representation of how many BIPOC authors I typically read. You see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Now, granted, a lot of those are the same author. Well, not a lot of those. A couple of those are repeat entries because they're manga volumes by the same author, but you see the intention is there, and I'm pretty good about it. But in terms of general trends from this past year, I was so good about reading my own physical TBR, which it feels like a funny statement for me to say because it's my TBR shelf, and it's stacked. They're all stacked 2 layers deep. And then there's more on the floor that you can't see. And then there's, well, you know what? I'm just gonna show you. 4 layers deep. Like an onion. Don't worry, we will be tackling that in a series this year, but that's your sneak preview. I hate that I did that. I've been watching too much Dropout. Becoming Josh. Yeah. Ew. But all that to say, I've been pretty freaking good about reading my own physical TBR this year. Did I do a final count of how much I had totally read from my own physical TBR? I don't think that I did. Like, you can see here, you can see it on that page. You can see, like, for every page, a lot of entries are my own physical TBR. And even that is own physical TBR. I have a lot of highlighters, and I couldn't find the exact color. So that I'm proud of. I love that and that's the thing too, is that a lot of it was either physical TBR or library books. There was not a lot of anything else. And if it was anything else, it was typically an Amazon book that I got on Kindle for like Stuff Your Kindle Day or whatever. Which is technically an owned digital TBR, but it's not an owned physical TBR, so I didn't count it towards that. But I would say probably if I had to go through and editing Chey, I'm so sorry. You know it's coming. I'm gonna make you do it. I'm willing to bet that probably around 93 to 95% of what I read this year was either library or my physical TBR. I'm willing to bet. Somehow in there, I'm willing to bet, and I'm pretty proud of that. But if you know me, or if you don't know me, I'm just not in a financial situation, nor have I ever been, to just go out and consistently buy books, like new books, like trips to Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. Not me, fam. Don't judge you. I've never been in that financial situation. And also, I have never been able to justify to myself spending $25 constantly on new books for a book that I'm not even sure I'm gonna like. To me, I'm like, that's a lot of groceries. Not nowadays, but like, you know, growing up as a kid during a recession, it's like, you want to go to the bookstore and get a new book you don't even know that you're gonna like for $25 when that could buy your school uniforms? And yeah, don't look at me. I didn't go to private school. We had that stupid school district thing where they made us all wear uniforms because they thought that kindergartners were gonna be in crime syndicates or something. That's all I'm gonna say on that though, because much smarter people than me have talked about overconsumption, and I'm not the place for that. That is not the wrap up for this. So that is to say, if you go out and you spend your money, which is your business, on books and new books and stuff like that, that's awesome, and I love that for you, and I love watching your stuff. But that's just to say, me, I don't. I never have, and I don't think that I ever will. Do I go on hauls sometimes? Yeah. But I'm just never gonna be that person financially, I don't think, where I, like, have a weekly trip to Barnes & Noble or whatnot. I'm too busy spending what money I have on concert tickets. That's just my chosen money pit, okay? We all have them. Besides, look at this. I have enough. So the books that do come in here, I typically get for my birthday, for Christmas, you know, just as general gifts, or raiding my local libraries, Friends of the Library sale, which I'm going to again this weekend. All that's a rant to say that I don't have a constant influx of, like, new releases and new books and stuff like that on my shelves, but I do go shopping. I do go to, like, my Friends of the Library sale. I go to thrift stores. I go to estate sales, stuff like that. So there is stuff coming in, so I do need to consistently read it, and therefore I am proud of myself that I try to consistently read my own TBR, which is eventually slowly going to take over my room and wear out my floorboards, and then I'm not going to have a house. But for now, you're on my turf. And I'll tell you what a big help was that I finally was able to get a Nashville Metro Public Library card, because here's a pro tip. If you're in Middle Tennessee and you're in an outlying county from the metro area, you can get a Metro Nashville Public Library card for free, but if you want to access ebooks and digitals and stuff like that, there's a $5 yearly fee, which I think is pretty accessible considering. And I have gotten so many more books that are not available through my own libraries, Libby, like my home library. So now that I have, count 'em, not 1, 2 library cards, I am twice the menace. Stop it. And such, I have read a lot more library books this year, and having having library cards like that is a main reason that I've read as many newish releases as I have, because I wouldn't have gotten them otherwise. So what did I discover about my reading habits and stuff like that last year? Number one, I actually like audiobooks, but it has to be a specific kind of audiobook. I can only listen to certain genres or certain things on audiobook. Who knew that there could be complexity in actually having opinions on a certain type of media? Not me. That's why I just avoided audiobooks for so long, because I was like, I can't concentrate because I have ADHD, if that was not painfully obvious. And so I'm medicated. And so I can't concentrate, and I don't feel like I'm giving my full attention to the book that I should be. Turns out I can. It just has to be like a certain type of book. Turns out I can't really listen to my high fantasy and fully action sci-fi or whatever on that, because duh, Chey. But nonfiction I actually tend to understand better, which you're like, that seems but that seems a little bit incompatible with what I just said, or in contest with what I just said. But it's true. Like, I listened to more nonfiction on audiobook this year than I think I've ever had, but I've listened to more audiobooks this year than I ever have in general. So, yeah, I get it. And I think it's because it's like I'm sitting in a lecture or someone's talking to me, and so I'm digesting. I'm more worried about getting the gist of it than like when I'm actually reading nonfiction, I'm trying to get every little detail that I'm reading. Whereas when someone's talking to me about it, I just pick up on the stuff that I care about and remember. And I can always go back and read the physical book, or get it if I like it that much, and, you know, keep researching it and stuff like that. But I found that I really like that. Something I do not like on audiobooks is typically romance books with a lot of steam. I can't do it. I can't listen to steamy, spicy romance audiobooks because it either makes me cringe or it makes me laugh. I can't do it. The exception is monster romance, which, big monster romance girly. I helped co-host the Monster Smash Readathon with Sash and Sarah last year, which was also amazing. First time I've ever been asked to do something like that, and I did not contribute as much as I should have, but in my defense, I had a lot of personal stuff going on with potentially losing my house and like a lot of big life changes, which thankfully are like pretty resolved by now. But Sash, you should go check out Sash. It'll be linked down in the description below. And also, Sarah doesn't have booktube. Sarah has an Instagram, so Sarah's Instagram will be in the description down below. They're both so lovely and so patient, and I hope that we do it again in the future, because I love them, and I love that readathon, and I love monster romance. So I can listen to monster romance on audio, but that's because I don't really take it that seriously, and it's not that I take romance in general seriously, but I don't know, it feels like there's something already tongue-in-cheek about it, and like I said, listening to spice or steam on audiobook tends to make me laugh or cringe, and if I'm already kind of tongue-in-cheek laughing about monster romance, I don't know, it just feels lighter to me, and I'm like, okay, I don't know, I just found that I can stand it, and I'm a big demon girly, so that's important to me. And also goofy romance. I can listen to something that's more of like a contemporary, kind of Emily Henry-ish, that I can stand a little bit more, but I like it better to physically read it or e-read it. Now, how did this change to audiobooks happen, you might ask? I sort of mentioned it earlier. Natlington Asha. She's gonna hate that I did the Asha part. I don't care! Nat from Nerdy Nat Reads is one of my best friends, and that's her problem. But we got close last year, and she loves audiobooks. She loves audiobooks, and I was like, you know, with her influence, I'm gonna start trying some more, and I just found my actual, what is the word? I almost had it. What is the word? Diversity? No. Dichotomy? No. In listening to audiobooks. I know I'm gonna think of the word, so I'm just not gonna say it. I'll just put it in here in editing. That's editing Chey's problem. And speaking of Nat's curses upon my life, which I take as blessings, really, she also is the one that got me to read more romance this year. I read more romance this past year than I have any years prior. Never just been a big romance girl. I like romance, but I think I just didn't really know where to start, because a lot of premises and stuff didn't really sound that interesting to me. Throughout my life, I've been pretty much a grimdark, high fantasy, nonfiction, or like fantasy type girl, like YA fantasy, and I just never really reached for anything romance. I didn't mind it, but I think like when it kind of exploded, I think I got over inundated with it, and I was just like, I'll read some if one catches my eye, but it was kind of like flooded. Nat was like my Noah grabbing my hand, pulling me onto the arc, and actually gave me suggestions. She gave me guidance, which I need structure to function. And through Nat's recommendations, mostly, I have read a lot more romance and found some stuff on my own from that I really enjoyed and really loved. Is that a pun? I don't think so. And actually, Nat gives me so many recommendations and has given me so many recommendations that I love that I started her own bookshelf for her on Goodreads in my shelves called Nerdy Nat Reads. I know, I'm so clever. Actually, even more than that, I did a whole vlog for her birthday, which will be coming out as the video after this one, because it should have come out last year, but it didn't, and I just wanted to get this one out before it got too much later than early in the year. So, that video, if you want to see me read some stuff that Nat has recommended to me, some of Nat's favorites, that video will be the one out after this one. Make sure you subscribe to stick around for that. It's going to be really fun, I promise, and it's a big one. Speaking of recommendations, I also got a lot more recs from my friends Em and Jan Agaton over at Jan Agaton on YouTube. Her link in description also down below. Jan is also one of my close friends, and I would say she very much influences me, specifically with horror, and I trust Jan to give me decent lit fic recommendations as well. Mostly horror, but if Jan says that she likes a more lit fic-y contemporary type thing, I will perk up and take a little bit of notice, and I'll be like, I will test said waters, because typically, me and contemporary literary fiction do not get along. Like, modern, I tend to not like it. There, I have expanded my reach of friends that I'm like, yes, we share taste, or like have picked out the variety in their taste that I tend to align with, and I take different places from different faces. And I don't know what that was. That is a face I never want to make again. And I'm just thriving in it. I'm absolutely thriving in it. I've also made more friends on BookTube in general. Charisma. And because I got more connected to people, that also meant that I participated in general in more readathons, like the Monster Smash. I almost said Smash Mash. And no, Monster Smash, but I also participated in Full Moon Readathon, which is hosted by Jan Agaton. I did a video for it on this channel. It'll be up there if you want to watch it, or just watch anyone's video on it, because it's a very fun readathon that we do every year, and I always have such a good time reading a lot of my TBR. And my TBR for this past year was insane. I typically don't do TBRs unless it's something like a readathon, or like a video like I do for Jan's birthday, or like I did for Nat's birthday, which is going to be the next video. And whenever I did set a TBR this year, I did pretty well about sticking to it. People thought I was crazy for my Full Moon Readathon TBR, and they were absolutely correct, but I still did it. Editing Chey here to tell you another little fun factoid. So I didn't do 25 in 2025 last year, but I did have a tab, a shelf on Goodreads called My Books for the Year. It was mainly just like a 25 and 25, but not so high-strung about it. I don't know, like, it wasn't really that hardcore. I want it to be a consistent running list of just books that I want to focus on from year to year and change it annually, just to update it to my preferences, and it'll be fun to see how many I get, at the end of the year. And so, looking back on this year, looking back on 2025, I had 30 books listed originally in it for the year of 2025, and I ended up reading 17 of them, which is over 50% ratio, so that's pretty good. And a lot of these are my own physical TBR, so that's even better. And some of these I am currently reading as I'm editing, as we're talking, so they will be finished and they will be off the list as well. I will be keeping the ones that are still relevant that I want to focus on for 2026 on there, but I will be going through and adding some more soon. So yeah, I thought that was a little fun tidbit to add. I think overall, the thing that I'm most proud about is myself branching out this past year in terms of my reading taste, trying more romance, trying more sci-fi, thanks to Nat, trying more horror, trying more contemporary, just trying so many different things. Even if I didn't end up loving it, I still tried it, and I think that in itself is so important to do. It's important to find stuff out that you're not gonna like. That way you have... What is the word? Why am I forgetting words in a book video? That way you can flesh out the opinions of your taste. Why do you not like something? Why do you like something? And let's get into the weeds on that. And another one of the big things for me was I got more brutal with my ratings. When I tend to rate books, I'm typically very kind, especially if it's a smaller book or a smaller author. I tend to lean towards the more positive, or at least give a lot more grace, and I often round up my ratings because Goodreads has that stupid you can't do decimals or whatever rating system. But this year I got a lot more brutal with my ratings. Not brutal, but brutal for me. If it felt like a 3-star and I was like, oh, it's maybe a 3.5, I put 3 stars. And I actually started writing reviews. Not a ton, but I actually started writing out my reviews. That way I could dictate my exact thoughts, not just for my videos, but just for my own self, trying to be more critical, not necessarily a negative context, but just being more critical for the sake of critical thinking and critical analysis. And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it a lot. I enjoy writing in general. I love to write. It's been my biggest passion ever since I could hold something that I could write with. And so actually getting to dictate and flesh out what I loved or what I did not love about a work and the themes and intentions and stuff like that has been really fun, and I want to continue doing more of that. In conjunction with that, though, talking about being critical and negative and all that kind of stuff, even though I'm being more brutal with my writing, something I never want to do is focus on the negativity. I am very much the whole, like, bring back shame, and it's okay to be a hater, but I think there has got to be, what is the word? What is the word in it? Because if it's not done in a certain way, then it just becomes bullying. And the difference is critical analysis, I think. But also delivery and also intent. If a book is bad and I think it's bad, I'm gonna say it's bad. Is that gonna berate the author personally when they haven't done anything problematic or anything to me? No. And I'm going to make sure of that in my review, that it's not saying anything about the author personally that it doesn't need to say personally. It's critiquing the work of art, it's critiquing what's in the art, and it's critiquing my own opinion of it. Now, all that being said, I also don't like to focus on the negative. Being a hater in the way Kendrick is a hater is important, yes. And being critical and offering critique and critical analysis, yes, that's all very important. And literature analysis and media literacy, my God, and stuff like that. But I also don't like to focus on the negative. That's why you won't catch me doing a worst books of whatever on my channel. It's not me. I don't like to focus on the negative. I'm not afraid of the negative, but I personally don't like to focus on the negative. It's why if I'm doing a vlog and I talk about books, like there's a book that I hate or I have problems with, like The Haunting Wives, I will rant about it in said video, but I don't want to make videos surrounded on content or typical video ideas where it's just a rant or it's just a negative thing. I personally don't want to spend my time doing that. I would rather spend my time on positive things that make me happy and talk about books that I love rather than books that don't make me happy. Also, I think it's bad energy, and I got enough of that thrown around up here, okay? So this year I want to keep that going, but I also do want to reach more into my bag of literature analysis and critical analysis and be more thoughtful in my reviews and work on the delivery of it being a critique, but also kind, because that is a big thing too. Delivery and intent is such a big indicator, and I want to work on that craft. Back to some more goofy little things. I got into Star Wars reading this year. So I got a couple of books from my library haul, they had Star Wars books. And I was like, I'm gonna do the Nat video anyway, and Nat loves Star Wars. She has this whole Star Wars canon project. And the irony is that these books that I got are from the Legacy, which is a whole different world of the series, and she's reading the other parts of the series, which I forget what they're called, Nat, forgive me. But I got the other books, and so I read them, but I loved it. Do I have it down here? I do. I read this, and I loved it. I actually loved it, and so I'm like a Star Wars book girly now, for some reason. I have a couple more of these, and the Nashville Library has all of, like, this series and a couple others in ebook format, so I will be reading them. Who would have thunk? Not me. Also, I got into my J.R. Ward era. I've been wanting to read Dark Lover for a very long time, and I finally got it as an ebook from my library, and I read it, and I loved it. And I got every single book except for 1 or 2 from the library sale. You see this whole stack of books right there? That's all J.R. Ward. I'm loving it. I'm having such a good, goofy time with it. J.R. Ward is for the girlies. I also think she's just hilarious. I think she's so funny. And I'm just live, laugh, loving. This year was really a year of new favorites, and first, because I got my first bookish tattoo. That's right, I read a book last year that I love so much, I got it tattooed on me. What is it, Chey? Is it Fourth Wing? Is it A Court of Thorns and Roses? Is it Good Girl? No. And if you ever catch me getting one of those things tattooed, take me out back behind the freaking woodshed and put me out of my misery. GG does not stand for good girl, it stands for double barrel. GG stands for you turn the D and the B in double barrel upside down, and it kind of looks like, This joke went on for way too long. So what's the book, you may ask? Well, this is a perfect segue into This is a perfect segue into talking about some of my favorites from last year. Don't worry, I won't drag this on too long, but I do want to talk about some of my favorites of the past year. One final little note though, last year was also the year of the manga, which I typically blame on my, I do blame on my 28K in 28 days video, which is on my main channel. If you have not seen it, link in the cards above. So I did a thing with Jan, not last year, but the year before, 10K in 10 days. And, I upped the ante and I wanted to do 14K in 14 days, but then I said, nah, weak sauce. And so I did 28K in 28 days. 28,000 pages in 28 days. And I read a lot of manga to get those page numbers up, because I gotta read 1,000 pages a day on average. Yeah, you can bet your banana bottom dollar I was reading a lot of manga. But I also have a lot of manga that I was in the middle of, that I'm still in the middle of. And so I finished a couple of series. Like, I finished Her Majesty's Dog. I made progress on a bunch of others, like Jujutsu Kaisen, Love is War, Blue Exorcist, stuff like that. And this year, I want to actually finish a couple of series, or get to the point where I'm caught up in a couple of series. Because I do love manga, if that wasn't obvious. I hope to eventually have my own manga wall shelf, because some of these series, Blue Exorcist is still going, Black Butler is still going, stuff like that. But now, let's talk about some of my favorite books from last year. So the tattoo that I got, post picture here, Chey, post picture here. I'm gonna give you a second to look at this, and first of all, realize how awesome it is. Yes, thank you, I know. The tattoo artist is Frankie Quadrini from Nashville. What is my horse doing? What are you doing, Stormy? Where are you going? You rolling? Are you pooping? What are you doing? Are you pooping? I have a couple of dogs, which, by the way, just got their own Instagram recently. Press Play Pups. Also down in the description below if you want to follow them, Sam and Bub. But we have the neighbor's dog, Rosie, who also comes over, and she's like an adopted member of the family, and she's a healer, and I have a horse. I'll let you put that together, why I have to be on watch. The artist is Frankie Quadrini from Nashville. I will put her Insta here. She's done most of my tattoos. She's done 3, and I have 5. Yes, she's done most of my tattoos at this point, and I absolutely love her work. I absolutely love her. She did this for me as a custom flash design for Halloween, for her Halloween flash sale. If you have read this book, you may have gotten what it is. If you haven't, then I don't know why you would. Unless you think it's just like, you get the horror aspect of it. What book is it from? That tattoo is from I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Last year was absolutely dominated by this man. I love Stephen Graham Jones. He quickly became one of my top 3 favorite authors. He's fighting for the #1 spot with Mark Lawrence. Dumas, Three Musketeers, has the honorary #1, like, of all time, and so does Hemingway, but, like, in terms of modern, still with us authors, Mark Lawrence and Stephen Graham Jones are, like, neck and neck. And it all started with this book. This was my first Stephen Graham Jones book, and I got it tattooed in the same year that I read it. I specifically love this book just because it's insane, and it's such a fun concept. It's a love letter to horror, and I love slashers. I grew up on slashers, and so of course I was gonna love it. Stephen Graham Jones really is a man after my own heart in terms of very niche life experiences. Like, the end of this book, I will never forget it, and it's making me tear up thinking about it right now. Okay? So, at the end of this book, which I'm not gonna spoil for you, don't worry, but there's a whole part of it, like, takes place in the parts department of, like, a junkyard, right? And the description of the parts department, like, computer and the system and stuff like that, just really hit me in my soul, because I grew up in parts warehouses. My mom was the manager of a parts warehouse for a dealership. So I grew up in that environment. I'm named after a truck. I am a 3rd-generation family mechanic, okay? And so that hit me in my soul. And I'm also reading Zombie Bake Off right now by Stephen Graham Jones. And there's a joke about OEM that I got immediately. And I was like, me and Stephen Graham Jones tend to have very niche life experiences that we share that I'm like, I get it and I see you. Also, I had the inkling just to pick up this random Stephen Graham Jones book recently that I've had on my TBR list, and so I was like, I'll just get it and read a couple pages in it. I didn't know why this one specifically, because it's not one that I really hear anyone talk about, and I opened it up, and one of the first things was lyrics by Bob Seger. Bob Seger is my favorite artist of all time. Steven. Also, when I got Killer on the Road, which I'm still in the middle of reading. When I got killed on the road, I was like, oh, that reminds me of that Doors song, because I had a really big Doors phase in middle school. Opened up one of the first pages. Doors lyrics. So anyway, yes, Shing is from I Was a Teenage Slasher. This takes place in Texas in the late 80s and follows this pair of friends, Tolly and Amber. And essentially, there's someone in the town who slowly becomes a slasher. And it's like this whole transformation process that then terrorizes the town, and this is sort of the memoir of that person. And I just loved it so much. It is so funny, it is so terrifying, it is so well written, and it's just insane. And when this person is slowly having their transformation, they're becoming a little bit self-aware of like, hey, I think this thing is happening to me. And part of their transformation, when they pick up weapons that you would see in a horror movie, they make like horror movie sounds. And so whenever they pick up a knife, they notice that it goes shing. And they tell their friend this, and their friend is like, I went home and I tried that and nothing happened. And so they put a knife on the table, and the friend grabs it, doesn't make a noise, and the slasher grabs it and goes shing, and then tries dragging it across the table, and it goes shing. And I love that. I love it as a concept, I love it as a letter to horror, I love it as a detail, and so I got it tattooed, and I think it's pretty sick. Am I planning on another Stephen Graham Jones tattoo already? Yes, and it's combined with Orthodox, which is one of my favorite hardcore bands. One of my favorite Nashville bands, too. So that should be fun. But yes, I found Stephen Graham Jones. I love Stephen Graham Jones. I've read a lot of his work last year. How many books did I read of his last year? Chey put it in here. I read a lot. And everything that I've read, I think, has been 5 stars to me. Do I not have that up here? Another favorite that I read was Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I think I read this for my 28K, but I absolutely love this. No, I read it for Full Moon Readathon, I think. But this is a retelling of David Copperfield, set in Appalachia. My heart and soul, I'm from Appalachia. I'm from the backwoods of Tennessee. This is so accurate, so painfully accurate to my childhood that I cried throughout it. By chapter 7, I was like, yeah, I've experienced this stuff on a daily basis. And yes, this is my real accent. I don't want to hear you talk about it. But I love this book so much. It was like she spied on my childhood. It was like she spied on my own personal experiences. And I loved it. It was the first time I have felt accurately seen and accurately portrayed in not a flattering, but an honest view of Appalachia and all of its quirks and all of its problems and all of its vices and all of its loveliness. I cried throughout this book. The tobacco experience, the tobacco barn, tobacco sickness and stuff like that. For the kids who wake up hungry in those dark places every day, who've lost their families to poverty and pain pills, whose caseworkers keep losing their files, who feel invisible or wish they were, this book is for you. And so yeah, it's one of my favorite books of all time, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to annotate it properly and write in it and reread it because I love it. If you want to understand the heart of Appalachia, my personal experience and like my personal experience growing up and the people, the place, and a lot of the deep set problems, but also love and family and kindness and a lot of the things that make Appalachia so beloved to us, and like these hills and these mountains and these hollers, you need to read this book. It does have a lot of heavy themes. As any book, check the trigger warnings, because there's a lot. You can also say I have my heart as a chainsaw up there. So lastly, the last thing I want to talk about is a new favorite series that I found that I pretty much read all of last year. And I originally found books 4 and 5 at a library sale, and when I had never read anything quite like what I read in like the intro to the dedication and the back, and so I was like, I need to get the first book. And I did, and I loved it, and I'm on the last book now, and I'm slogging through it because I don't want it to end. But so far, every single book in this series has been 5 freaking stars, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it, and I need a whole fandom surrounding this series. I need merch. I need fan art. I need everything, okay? It is the Johannes Cabal series. This is book 1, Johannes Cabal the Necromancer by Jonathan Howard. I need more people to read this series. I have been begging Nat for like months and months and months, and she's promised she's gonna get to it. I don't know when, but I'm also like, I hope you love it. If you like Monty Python-esque type humor, you'll probably like this series because it is very like Python-esque, absurd dietism, whatever that genre is. And it's just goofy, and it's such a fun time. If you like Vonnegut, you'll probably like this. It is so tongue-in-cheek and so snarky, but also dry, kind of British humor, and I love every freaking page. This series, though, follows our main character, Johannes Cabal, the necromancer of some little infamy. And basically, he's going around and he's trying to find a cure to death. He doesn't just want to raise people from the dead, he's specifically trying to find, like, the cure for death. And the search for the secret to that often ends him up in some shenanigans of some sort. So, in this particular book, we're kind of setting the scene, and we learn that he sold his soul a lot of years ago to learn the laws of necromancy. But the thing is that now he wants it back, okay? And so he goes to Satan and he's like, I want it back. They're like, the first 2 chapters are him going through hell being like, get out of the way. Move. And he talks to Satan, he's like, I want my soul back, bro. And so Satan gets him into this bargain. He's like, hey, one of your soul is worth like 1,000 others, whatever. So I'll give you a year to get me this many souls, and then you can have your soul back. And so he does this by starting up a carnival on a train and going from town to town and trying to get people to make deals and sell their souls with some train conductors that are like falling apart zombies and stuff like that. And it's hijinks and it's so funny, but it's also full of such good banter and amazing writing, and I need more people to read it. Please read it. Also, his brother is a monster that he sealed away in a pit and then has to get out of said mausoleum pit to help him run this hell carnival. Because I want you to read this book so much, I'm going to read this paragraph to you, okay? Just real quick. Go away, roared Rufus. Vita supra. I don't know what that means, it's Latin. Go away, do you know who I am? Cabal turned. Even behind his blue-tinted spectacles, you just knew that his eyes had narrowed. I called you Rufus, Rufus. Perhaps I made a hash of the pronunciation? Let's see, that's Rufus. Pronounced egotistical megalomaniac, half-witted, half-baked, bubble-brained, slack-jawed, slope-browed, prattling, porcine, dim-wit, scoff. There. Was that better? You shouldn't have said that, whispered Rufus in a knuckle-whitening fury. If one imagines a Tyrannosaurus appearing in light opera and delivering a line sotto voce, that was the effect. Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I don't like you anyway, so it makes few odds. I don't like you happy, sad, beamish, or maudlin. The only way I will like you is if you take yourself and your friends there away to where you came from. I love this man so much! Okay, yeah, I think that's enough rambling. This is already like an hour-long video. God, Chey, shut up. It was quite a year. Well, my friend, it's been quite a year. That's a great song by Bearings called Aforementioned. You should go give it a listen. They're great bands. I had so much fun reading this past year, and I have so many good reading plans for this. I can't wait to see at the end of the year what I've read this year. I know it's going to be so full of new favorites, so full of new authors, and I'm so excited for the videos I'm going to get to make for this channel. I have so many ideas. There's going to be reading vlogs, of course, but trust me, if you like what you've seen so far, or you're curious to at least see what I get up to when I actually can plan stuff out, hit the subscribe button down below. Stick around. We would love to have you, and by we, I mean me. If you hit that subscribe button, you've hit a button. I was gonna promise you something vague and scientifical and magical, but I just don't care. Instead, what you will see are some reading vlogs, some themed reading videos, readathon vlogs, and just general silliness. General silliness and hijinks. That being said, that's gonna be it for me right now. I have a ton of other book videos already up on this channel if you want to go check those out. One will be recommended to you at the end, but I'm gonna go for now, and I'm gonna go read. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching, and if you ain't heard it from anyone else today, I love you. Love and peace. Bye!